Okay. Hello, webinar. Hello, world. Can you hear me? Hello, and welcome to everyone joining us from all around the world to this AhaSlides live webinar. Do let me know in the chat where you're coming from. It's going to wait a few moments for other people to join. They might be running a little bit late. But yeah, tell me where you're coming from. I'd love to know. I'm dialing in from here in the UK, so it's a little bit late right now. And you see that brain on the screen and those swirly eyes. That's exactly how I'm feeling at this late hour. But I'm glad to be here with you, and thanks for joining. Where have we got? Connecticut, Colombia, Orlando, Italy, Vancouver. Amazing. Thank you. Anywhere else? Snowy Chicago, Vietnam, Mexico. Oh my God, so many people from so many different places in the world. This is fantastic. Portugal. Where else? Tell me more. Prague. Wow. Fantastic. Okay. Welcome and thanks again for joining us on which is pretty much the first AHA Slides webinar of this kind, and it's called Defeat the Distracted Brain. And it's all about figuring out strategies for better teaching, better training, and workplace connection in a world of dwindling attention spans and distraction. If you don't know me, and I'm sure you won't because this is the first time I'm presenting a webinar for AhaSlides, my name's Ian Paynton. I'm the AhaSlides brand director. I'm an agency co-founder, and I'm also a podcast host. As you can see from the image, I also like getting on stage and speaking to people, speaking to audiences. I absolutely love it. For me, often the bigger the audience, the better. Whether it's a keynote or, in fact, I used to do a little bit of rapping as well, or a rap concert. I love getting on stage. What I don't love, however, is when I'm speaking on stage and I feel that the room is zoned out. The room isn't paying attention and my message isn't quite landing. That's probably the thing I don't love the most. And I think that's what Aha Slides is really good at doing. And it's why I love working with them because it takes one way, very passive, unengaging presentations and turns them into two-way engaging experiences. It really taps into those aha moments where you're really connecting with your audience. There's a connection in the room, there's a buzz, and there's two-way communications. Everyone's involved. And importantly, your message is landing and things are getting remembered. You feel like you're creating more impact. But this isn't about AHA Slides today. This is about you as presenters, the challenges you face when presenting, and figuring out ways to present better to make sure your message lands, you can keep attention, and things get remembered. So, those of you who don't know, we will be using AHA Slides throughout this webinar. And what happens is I'm going to flash up a QR code on the next screen. And if you can pull out your phone, you can actually scan that QR code. And what that means is you'll get to engage with us throughout the presentation. We're really going to make this webinar a two-way experience rather than a one-way passive participation. So when you do scan the QR code, be sure to put your name and enter your correct email. Now, we do already have your email because you've joined the webinar, but the importance of joining with your correct email here is at the end, we're giving away 3 epic prizes. And in order to claim your prize, if the spinning wheel lands on your name, then you will need to have the correct email here. So how are we getting on? If you can sign in, scan the QR code, and maybe hit some emojis to let me know that there's life out there. There we go. Okay, I see some hearts. Okay, this is what I like to see, some engagement. Thanks for joining. I'll flash up this QR code a few more times throughout the presentation because what we'll be doing is some word clouds, some Q&As, some live polls, and also the giveaway at the end there. So, the first thing I wanted to ask you is what's your why? Why did you join today's session? And I really like this feature on our AhaSlides because it really gets us all on the same page. It gets us all into the same, let's call it room. And it helps us to understand your intentions, your expectations from the session. It helps us tailor our messaging. It gets audiences connected. And as you can see, ideas are flashing up on the screen, inspiration, increased student engagement. So we've got some educators in the room. Fantastic. I'm a panelist and I love using AhaSlides, learn how to boost presentations. It's an interesting topic. We're finding as AhaSlides, the more we talk about attention and the attention economy and distraction, it is getting a lot of traction among our audiences. So we're really, really glad to hear that it is an interesting topic and we will keep doing these conversations. These conversations are there to give you insight, give you value, and help you learn engagement strategies. You're a teacher, you need tools, fantastic, ideas, curiosity, student engagement. I train people, fantastic. Okay, brilliant. Thanks for joining in. Now, before I introduce our amazing panel that are joining us today, I just wanted to let you know about a piece of research AhaSlides did recently with 1,048 professionals who often present, and they were educators, trainers, HR professionals, CEOs, meeting organizers, and we surveyed them. And guess what? You might not be surprised that 82.4% of all respondents report regular audience distraction. It's quite a lot of people. I'm certainly one of them. 48%, almost 50% of people put this down to the fact that their audience are usually multitasking during a session. They've got a lot on, they're switching between things to do, switching between screens. 43%, almost 44% of people say that it's down to digital device usage, notifications going off, TikTok going off in the background, the phone in the pocket screaming, pick me up and scroll Facebook. 41% of people say that we're just looking at too many screens and we've got fatigue. And it means that our audience is just zoned out and losing attention and they're distracted. And 41.7% of presenters said that perhaps their presentations were lacking interactivity. And that's the reason why their audience is distracted. 69% of respondents believe that reduced attention span impacts the productivity of their sessions. Again, that's a lot of people who believe that their sessions aren't having as much impact as they would like. Now, here's the most troubling part for me is almost 41% of higher educators say distraction impacts their job satisfaction. I see some sad emojis happening, and I agree, it is sad. 43% of corporate trainers say distraction impacts their job satisfaction. So this attention economy, dwindling attention spans, mean that actually presenters are coming home from their day at work and thinking, did that go as well as it could have? Am I having as much impact? Is my message landing? Are we being as productive? Am I happy with my job? This sounds like a crisis to me. But what's going on? And how does presenting to a tuned out room make you feel? You must have been there. You probably have been there, according to the research. How does presenting to a tuned out room make you feel? Boring, yes. Yeah, yeah. I'm feeling all of these things. Not now, thankfully, but in presentations where I feel that people are distracted. Incompetent. Yeah, that's a big one. Not productive, drained, like it's a waste of time. Not good, curious, invisible. Core. I definitely don't want to be feeling invisible when I'm presenting. Um, I hear you. And today's session is figuring out how we can avoid this. What's happening in the brain when people are losing attention and they're distracted? And what can we do to counter it? So, what's going on in our brains when we're distracted, and what can we do about it? This, ladies and gentlemen, is where I would love to introduce our panelists, the fabulous three, Dr. Sherry Orr, Hannah Choi, and Neil Kakusa. But first of all, I'd like to pass you over to Dr. Sherry Orr so she can say hi.
Welcome. It's nice to meet all of you and be with you today. Thanks for having me, Ian and Amy. I'm excited to learn about AhaSlides. I'm kind of new to this space, but not new as a speaker and not new to understanding attention. That's my business. So, hi, Susie. So, anyway, I'm going to try to ignore the chat, but I do have a friend in the background. A local really great speech therapist, who does a lot of executive function coaching. So anyway, I I'm a neuropsychologist. I own a clinic called the Centers for Cognitive Wellness, and we're a team of mental health providers that specialize in helping adults with cognitive issues. And so we do a lot of what I call neurologically informed psychotherapy. We build in some cognitive rehabilitation strategies, kind of with being in psychotherapy. So we're very holistic. And I founded this practice, and I'm also the author of a book called The Neuroscience of Memory: 7 Skills to Optimize Your Brain Power, Improve Memory, and Stay Sharp at Any Age. And so it's great to be with everyone. I'm here to tell you a little bit about attention and what's going on. So I think we can go to the next slide. And well, or I could talk more
Sure.
about it, but just in the
Bef-
interest of
bef-
time.
but before I let you do that, I'm
Yes.
just going to whiz through the other speakers in Hannah and Neil
Yes.
just to say
Oh,
hi.
if I may though, while we're on the book, I did notice that it has been translated into exactly 2 other languages, which include Portuguese and Czech for whatever reason. So yeah,
Wow.
so you're gonna have the perfect
Perfect.
audience.
Excellent. The stars have aligned. Thanks, Sherry. Thank you. Hannah, hello.
Hi, Ian. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you.
So, I'm Hannah Choi, and I am an executive function coach. And I also host a podcast called Focus Forward. It's all about executive function skills. And I do that for a company called Beyond Booksmart. And I have ADHD, and I really struggled a lot with both attending and presenting for webinars because of my ADHD. But I have learned over the years that making them more interactive benefits me and my audience. So I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Hannah. It's a pleasure to have you. Neil, hello there, sir.
Hey, how's it going? Hello, everyone. I'm Neil Carcusa, and I'm excited to be here today. I'm a training manager for a company called Metagenics. Metagenics is a science-driven health and wellness company that partners with healthcare practitioners. And our job is really to deliver, science-based nutritional solutions for personalized care. So helping people really kind of meet their genetic potential and live healthier and happier lives. So with that kind of job, you can imagine it requires a lot of science. So it requires a lot of training, a lot of complex training. So I think this presentation is going to be really valuable to really kind of talk about how to grab that attention, how to grab the engagement throughout when you're trying to presenting anything, if it's complex or not complex. So being able to have that relevance and bring it back to the audience as well. So make them a part of the learning experience. So that's what I do on a regular basis for Metagenics, and I certainly utilize AhaSlides. So I'm familiar with AhaSlides. So I'm really excited to be here, and thanks for having me.
Thanks, Neil. And you've been doing it a while as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I've been with Metagenics now for 18 years, a long time.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing from you and some of your insights in chapter two. So we'll hear more from you then, Neil. Thank you.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
everyone. So, talking about chapters and today's plan, this is how it looks like. We've got about 45 minutes more of your time. And we're going to talk about brains and distraction. That's when I'll pass you back to Sherry. We're going to have a roundtable discussion around the implications for teaching, training, and work. We're going to pass it over to Hannah to talk about strategies for defeating distraction. The bit that you've all been looking forward to all week is the lucky draw giveaway at the end there. And then we're going to have an open floor Q&A. So do stick around to the end for both the lucky draw and the Q&A. You can put some questions in the chat as we go, but I'd recommend waiting until we get to the Q&A there at the end so we can see all of your questions and answer them one by one. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Sherry.
All right, now it's my turn.
Now it's your turn.
Now it's my turn. All right, I think we could go on. Yeah, so attention's a really important cognitive skill. We have a lot of different cognitive skills, but for a lot of the work that we do, a lot of times people come to us with a variety of memory concerns. A lot of times if we can kind of fix their attention, we actually end up fixing the memory concerns. Attention is really your gateway to memory. It's not really fair to expect your brain to remember something that you didn't notice in the first place, right? But a lot of times we kind of forget that. And so I think it's really important that we kind of focus on this. And so it was a real exciting thing for me to be invited to kind of talk to you all about this. So attention's really, before we get there, I just want to mention that attention's a complex skill. It's not really just one skill. It's sort of a variety of brain skills where you have to kind of be alerted to something, orient to that thing, and then have some executive function control over like where you're going to focus your attention. And each of those three skills that are part of the attention skill, those are kind of spread all over the brain. And so in addition to being really complex, that also means that attention's really vulnerable. So it can be vulnerable to brain damage, neurodevelopmental disorders like ADHD, but there are lots of things that affect our cognitive control, just really kind of everyday natural things. And so so we can go ahead into the poll, and I'll tell you a few things that we know as a scientific community about what affects attention. But tell me, what do you think affects attention? So we've got phone. Yes, very much. So yeah, we can blame technology, and we'll talk a little bit. We actually surprisingly have some data on the impact of technology that we'll talk about in a little bit. Noise, that's a good one. Notifications, interruptions, personal worries. Oh, this one's really good because a lot of times we think about external distractors, but we have a whole host of internal distractors too. So not just the thoughts that you have, but also the feelings that you have. Feelings can have a huge impact on attention. One of my favorite authors, David Rock, talks a lot about, he has kind of this SCARF model for kind of threats that happen in the work environment that can affect our feelings, things like scarcity and fairness. And so lots of things can have an impact internally. Externally, distractions, interruptions, how fast or slow we do something can affect our attention. So sometimes slowing down really makes it more likely that you get, a good outcome. But sometimes speeding up and doing something fast can help you sort of get that done. How much we're motivated. I'm seeing a little bit, like, I don't see motivation on the list, but things that are close to that, like, do I really want it, right? Like, do I want this thing? Sometimes you have to bribe yourself to pay attention. To paying attention, I'll use that phrase because it is, and actually, I mean, and it just occurred to me today that it is becoming a commodity. We actually have an attention economy now, where tech companies are vying for your attention. So lots of economic elements there. When things are too complex, then that affects our attention also. And one of the big ones is tiredness. So I'm seeing oh, I like existential dread. Yeah. Um, Distractions. But let's see. Oh, do we have fatigue on here? Stress, other people, kids. Yes, for sure. Uh, Also, if you don't get things done, then that sticks in your brain too. I remember writing a blog post when my kids were really young. I had a short-lived mommy brain blog, and I wrote a whole post on this thing called the Zeigarnik effect. Like unfinished business stays in your mind longer than things that you get done. And when you have one who's potty training and one who's starting to eat solid foods, like you're constantly full of unfinished business, a lot of switching back and forth. So I think we have a pretty good grasp on all the things that can kind of affect attention. Let's talk a little bit more about whatever's next on the slides. Yes, so people have been asking me. I've been a keynote speaker for about 15 years now, and over that period of time, people ask me all the time, what are these phones doing to our brains? And so we actually have some new data on this. Dr. Gloria Mark at University of California has done some pretty interesting research on this. Now that we have like more advanced computers, we can study attention span. This is something we couldn't study really 25 years ago. And so our attention spans collectively have decreased a lot. What is it? We have about a quarter of the attention span that we had 25 years ago collectively. So we've gone from about 2 minutes of focusing on something before we switch to something else to about 47 seconds. And I think we can all kind of understand and feel this, but we actually have data for it now, which is pretty interesting, a little alarming, but let's not fret too much. Our brains are plastic and malleable. We're just adapting to the environment that we're in. There's a lot of things that we can do to adapt in other directions. So it's all is not lost. So what's happening in the brain when we're distracted is really that it comes down to this idea that we can really only focus on one thing at a time. So we've got kind of that alerting part of the brain, the parts of the brain and your sensory organs are going to hear and see things and feel things. And so you're going to kind of pay attention to those. Then you orient to whatever that is. But then you need that third part of sort of that executive control. And what we know is that we can't focus on one thing at a time. Now, you might think that I multitask all the time. I'm a really great multitasker. When we're successful at multitasking, that's because we're doing kind of two things that aren't competing with each other, maybe like driving home, and then you've sort of got this automatic route that you take, and you don't have to think about that. So you can think about other things. You can hold on a conversation. But if you need to focus on driving, you have to solve a problem, right? Somebody cuts you off or you miss your exit, then you really do have to divert your attention from that conversation to the actual driving. And so we can go to the next slide. That multitasking is a myth, and our digital space and our attention economy really is built a lot around kind of asking us to multitask. I remember when Twitter started to become popular, people would live tweet during TV shows or news broadcasts or sporting events, and I was like, how are people doing this? I was never really an adopter of that. I couldn't really wrap my head around it, which is probably because I chose not to do that level of multitasking. But multitasking is a myth. You really can't pay attention to two things at the same time. And there are tremendous costs to all of this rapid switching of our attention. So not only does kind of switching and multitasking, there are three main things that happen whenever we're kind of in that environment. One, we make a lot more mistakes when we're multitasking. So efficiency, productivity is all kind of coming down. We're seeing effects of that. We're also, things take longer to finish. If you're stopping, there's a cost in the time that for going from orienting to one thing, disengaging, and then reorienting to that thing, and then coming back. And some studies from even 25 years ago in college students, making them kind of switch back and forth between two different things, that reduces your performance speed, your speed by the same amount that it would be if you were high on pot. So if you want to just get slower at doing things, you could get high on pot, or you could try to multitask. They kind of have the same effect. The third outcome is that it's stressful, and it creates stress in our bodies and in our brains. Stress impacts your ability to focus. When the limbic parts of your brain become activated, they literally suck blood flow away from your kind of your focus part of your brain. So you can't really focus when you're upset or when you're stressed. So just kind of a whole bunch of multifactorial impacts that's really kind of the cost of all of this distraction. So some other things of kind of always being on related to the last slide is that we're reducing efficiency, we're increasing stress, and we're creating a lot of tiredness. A lot of work cultures have kind of moved towards kind of being always on, right? With having email on your phone and at home. And but a lot of, anyway, we're in kind of a place where we have to make some of these decisions. Are we going to allow people to rest, take breaks, take naps? Then we can move on to the next slide. So hopefully you have a sense of some of the costs and what's happening in the brain. And so we want to pitch it back to you. What are the biggest causes of distractions in the training sessions that you're hosting? And so let's get a sense of that. Oh yeah, I like dopamine from social scrolling. Absolutely. Um, yeah, it can be really addictive to kind of get that next boost. I think that our brains really do kind of crave variety and novelty and some challenge. And so all the little dopamine hits that you can get from your phone, whether it be social media, games, and so, and I think a lot of us are training now more in these virtual environments. And so that makes it a little harder. When I speak in front of a group of people, I can kind of command their attention and their eye contact. I can politely ask them to put their phone away, those sorts of things. I can't really do that when I'm doing webinars. You never know when somebody's in the background, cleaning their bathroom or checking their email. So this is really good. And also these are, a lot of these threats to attention that you're putting here aren't just digital. I'm seeing other things like students being forced to be in the class. That would be a kind of a lack of motivation, right? You don't know, what am I going to get out of this? Yeah, it's hard to tell what people are doing if they have their screens off. I don't know if they're paying attention or not. So very good.
Okay. Shall I move the slide,
Go
Sherry?
for it.
Okay. Thanks so much, Sherry.
Yeah,
Really
it was a
appreciate
pleasure.
your insight there. The next part really is, what are the implications here for teaching, training, and the workplace? And this is where I'm going to ask a question to all of you, and chip in with any ideas that you have as well. It's a little bit of a round table panel, and we've got about 5 to 10 minutes for this one. So the first question I really wanted to ask, I think, Neil, given your 18 years of experience in training, what's the single biggest mistake you see in traditional training or presentation methods when it comes to keeping attention?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's a couple of them that come off the top of my head that I could think of, but I think the first one is assuming that attention is something that you only need to get once, and I think that we sometimes even see it in presentations, or even taking ourselves back to kind of going like we're in school or something and someone's about to give, maybe the principal's about to give a presentation or an announcement. And they're like, can I have everyone's attention? Can I have everyone's attention? And they get silence and they do it just once and just assuming that once I get their attention, hey, I'm good for the next hour. That's a big mistake, right? Attention is something that we have to plan out consistently throughout that training course. So if you have a half hour or 45-minute presentation you're going to give, always think that give that attention, get that buy-in, make it relevant right in the beginning, right? Grab them, make it relevant to the audience. And then you're going to go through maybe the kind of the topic at hand that you want to discuss, why it matters. Once then you cover that, then the next thing you need to do, revisit attention. Go back to attention. So attention is something that we want to make sure we plan throughout the entire training process, right? Because like we said, Dr. Sherry said in the beginning, that attention is what equates to having memory. And attention, that's really, really important. So I think that's a big one. And then also, I would say the next one I would look at is the biggest mistake is treating learning like information transfer, and instead of this kind of experience. So what I mean by that is even think of sometimes of how we went to like an old school presentation or even how we learned back in the day. It's kind of like you sit down, it's just information overload and it's just someone speaking all these bullet points and all this, and there's no interaction. And I think that that's a huge mistake is like, presenting in a style that's just information overload. And don't make that mistake. Make sure that you have it as an experience. And that experience is driven by interactivity, making it relevant, having check-ins, making sure you have those breaks so that they can kind of have that like mental recovery. I think that those are the two biggest things that you want to look out for.
Awesome. So am I correct in thinking then what you're talking about almost is attention resets throughout the
Yeah,
session? Yeah.
absolutely. Attention resets, that's going to drive the attention, like getting back to that attention. And also making sure that you're always doing check-ins. When you do that and you ask for their feedback, right? You ask them to participate. Now it's active learning. Now you've moved away from passive learning, which is you just want me to sit here and get all this information and I play no role in it, to then active participation. And that's active listening that equates to attention, that's relevant, and that makes them engaged.
And you think then your message has much more chance of landing in this case?
Oh, yeah, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Hannah, how about you? I know that you do a lot of training um, as an
Yeah,
executive functions coach. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Neil said. I was thinking, oh, I could just move my mouth and I would say exactly the same thing. I love that you cannot assume that once you get someone's attention once, then they will, that they will just continue paying attention to you. As we saw from the word cloud when Sherry was talking, that all of those things come up and they come up multiple times for people throughout the webinar, throughout any training or presentation that you're in. So I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to
Is there
talk
anything?
a little more about some of the things that Neil mentioned too later on. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
I'll leave that for you to do then rather than dig a little bit deeper now.
I mean, I could
Uh,
talk about it now or then. It doesn't matter to me.
it's okay. It's all
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll come back to you in chapter 3 for some more on
Okay.
that.
But if I don't answer the question you were going to ask just now, ask me, make sure you
I,
ask me then.
okay. Okay. Maybe I will ask it. I mean,
Okay. All right. Yeah.
is there anything that you think as an executive functions coach with ADHD, do you think there's anything that presenters aren't taking into consideration in presenting for every brain, perhaps?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, something that I think is critical to remember when you are designing a presentation is that the problem is not with the person, right? So the person who is struggling to pay attention, it is not anything wrong with them, right? It is simply a result of something that is happening within them, or maybe because of like how their brain is wired or what's going on in the environment that they're in. And so when we create presentations thinking from that lens, that there's not a character flaw of the one person who might not be paying attention, but how can we improve the environment and make the environment, which includes you as the presenter and your materials that you're presenting, how can we make that so that everybody can pay attention more easily, not just the neurotypical people who have maybe like fewer distractions that they're dealing with.
Yeah, got it. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Hannah. The next question I have is, how does a presenter's mental state, stress, confidence, energy affect audience attention? And I'm going to also ask that to Neil.
Sure. Yeah. This is huge. And going back to attention equates to memory. Well, attention is also contagious. So as a presenter the audience isn't just going to hear the content, but they're going to really feel the pulse of the presenter. So however the presenter is showing up, if the presenter is showing up with energy, they know the content, they make it relevant, they have a really good vibe about them, it's almost kind of like that mirror effect, right? Then you can expect that the audience is going to kind of participate and follow suit. But on the flip side of that mirror effect, if the mirror is opposite and the presenter shows up, they seem stressed, they have low energy, they're a little bit frazzled, that a mirror effect is going to happen again. And then the audience is going to be like, well, I'm going to disengage. I'm going to be low energy. I'm not really going to participate. I'm really not going to get that involved. So I think that that's really vitally important. If you are going to be a presenter, it's really the job to make sure you come prepared, know your story, tell your story, be excited to tell that story, make sure you always have those check-ins and make it engagement, create that relevance. But it is vitally important. It's vitally important that you have to show up with that kind of that energy. I had I was talking to Hannah about this earlier when we were kind of just talking about this podcast. Is I was saying, like, the way I view it, like an analogy I can give as a presenter, is think of it like as a radio station. So you have this radio station that the entire audience wants to listen to. It's the genre of music that the entire audience really likes, whatever it may be. Maybe it's Taylor Swift radio, whatever it may be, but everyone likes it. But as the presenter, if my frequency is off, if I don't have a clear channel, right, and then are static, no one's going to pay attention no matter what the content is. So the content can be amazing. It could be what everyone wants to hear. But if I'm not good at delivering that message, then it fails.
Got it. And I've heard you talk about that before, Hannah, as well, mirroring, right?
Yeah, the mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are this like secret power that we have. So in our brains, we have these neurons that when we see someone else do something, the same neurons that are activated in their brains doing the thing activate in our brains as well. And it's super interesting. If you Google it, you can learn about how they discovered that. But that's why, like Neil said, it is so critical that you bring to the presentation what you want to get back from your audience. And that's why taking care of yourself as a presenter, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, but it's critical because if you don't take care of yourself, and actually Sherry mentioned this too, you can't use your executive function skills because you are dysregulated or stressed or having a hard time. And so it's going to be harder for you to remember the content, to feel confident about it, to come across as interesting and engaged, which is then going to make it harder for your audience to pay attention.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Hannah.
I think it's also important too and I wanted to mention this is not only use your energy, but also being on time. Like if you're going to present, you want to make sure you start on time. And if there's going to be a few like people coming in, especially if you're giving like a live presentation, say for a corporation, you want to still make sure you start on time. Let them kind of catch up. You don't want to kind of let people keep them waiting, because then again, they're going to start to tune out and be like, well, this isn't all that important to them to start on time or to show up on time. So make sure that you're on time, and then you have all that energy. So I think that's really important. As at the end of the day, is also going back to that multitasking is your job as a presenter is, yes, ideally you can kind of set the tone of making sure people put their phone away. But the goal as a presenter and the energy that you put out there is you almost kind of want to make them not want to multitask. Like, be better than the phone, be more relevant than Facebook, right? And I think as a
Mm,
presenter, you have that ability to do that.
mm. And you mentioned a little bit about telling the story earlier. How important is storytelling in presenting, do you think?
I think it's huge. If you're going to present on something or a topic, or you're going to whatever it may be, is know it so well. Like, study it, learn it so it becomes your story. And then when it becomes your story, then when you're presenting is all you're doing is storytelling. And storytelling is so much fun, especially when it's engaging and you get their interaction. When you create slides, you can create wonderful slides, but at the end of the day, it's that storytelling. I think the slides should never be a novel, right? They should never be a bunch of writing on there. Think of it almost like a children's book, right? Your slide should have really cool images and some bullet points, and then you tell the story and you get their engagement. So we should all know whatever we're presenting as well as it is as if I'm just telling a story about, an experience that I just had with maybe my mom and my dad. Like, I could tell that story like that. I know it like the back of my hand. Well, that's how I should be able to
Mm,
present, is be able to tell that story on the topic that I'm talking about and making sure I get their buy-in, make it relevant to them.
mm.
And that's like I said, that's really important to drive successful training.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Neil. I like what you said as well about almost not having too much on the slide, right? Just having a big, strong image or one word or something. I was sitting in a meeting recently, and the CEO had come in with these slides, and the slides were rammed from corner to corner with diagrams, flowcharts, words, and I didn't know whether to read the words, look at the pictures, listen to him. And in the end, I ended up doing nothing, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No one showed up to read a book, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And as a presenter and as a trainer, uh, don't read the slides, right? So the goal is not to read slides. Again, people can read, and we don't really necessarily want them to read a novel. Tell a story. Let the
But,
slides be the illustration and the
mm,
bullet points to your story.
If I may
but
jump in on this too,
mhm,
having wordy slides actually is distracting because people are using the same modality of cognition too. So it's all verbal. You're having to switch your verbal listening to verbal reading. That's why images are much better because you're actually two different parts of the brain. You can do a little bit more multitasking when you're not using the same system.
mm. Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that makes a lot of sense as to why I just ended up doing nothing, just zoning out. The funny thing is, I think he did that to make the presentation or the company seem sort of good or better than it was, or impressive, but in the end it was just noise, and nothing landed. Anyway, enough about my experiences in the boardroom. Um, Hannah, one for you. How does understanding ADHD and other forms of neurodiversity change how we design learning experiences? Are you about to answer that, do you think, in the next section? Should we skip this?
No, 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 this is great.
Yeah.
This is great. No, I just to what I said a little bit before about how, when we design with all brains in mind, then we're looking more at the environment and everything that we were just talking about is those are all really important things to remember when designing. But the other things that the other sort of benefits of designing with all brains in mind is that, I mean, I'm a big executive function nerd, but when we design and present for all brains and keeping the ADHD brain and other challenges like that in mind, is that it prioritizes executive functioning support within the presentation itself. And so, like, for example, with ADHD, it really impacts your memory. Sherry, I actually met Sherry by interviewing her on Focus Forward, and we talked about memory and how frustrating that can be for people. And part of that is because when you have ADHD, it's difficult to pay attention. And so, if the presentation is designed to be more engaging, then I'm naturally going to remember more. And so it really supports that executive functioning. And then also, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later, but uh, self-regulation is an executive function skill that is very difficult, that can be very difficult for people with ADHD. And when we cannot regulate our emotions or our impulses, it can be very uncomfortable. And so if we are in an environment, we're being presented to, taught something, and we're uncomfortable, then it is harder to regulate ourselves, which makes it harder to use our executive function skills and harder to pay attention and all that. And so designing for that brain makes sure that more people in the room are going to be comfortable in this space and feel safe and feel like, okay, I really want to pay attention to this. And then one other thing I want to mention is when we design for the neurodivergent brain, we are normalizing flexibility and choice. And the more we can normalize having different ways of interacting, different, like tonight, we are having multiple panelists, we're having different segments with different formats. When we normalize that kind of presenting, and then also giving people opportunities to interact, like with AhaSlides, which I love, then we more people learn about doing presentations like that, and we normalize, like, yeah, like, why not do it for everybody? Why do we have to sit here all formally and just listen to someone drone on and on? So yeah, so those are my kind of three ideas about that.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm.
Thanks, Hannah. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to ask one more question and then we're going to move on to your section in chapter 3, Hannah, strategies. Sherry, one for you. In the first instance, is there such thing as too much interactivity?
I'm sure there is. Um, of course, I mean, I think that, it wasn't the Dalai Lama that said everything in moderation, including moderation. And yes, there is too much interactivity. I think,
Yeah.
you know, so you want to kind of find that sweet spot. One thing I think is kind of nice about AhaSlides is that we've just kind of co-opted everybody's phones, right? Instead of them being on social media or playing their favorite video game, like, we took over what the phone says too, because it's just a place to put in answers and shoot us emojis. So yeah, I think we can, any of our activities can be too distracting. If they cause stress in the presenter, like what Neil was talking about, all feelings are contagious. Because of the mirror neuron systems, but in addition, lots of other neurobiological reasons that if a presenter is nervous or distracted, or I always get nervous doing activities in my presentations, and so I think that's palpable, right? Everybody can kind of pick that up, and so for sure, yeah, you want to be
Yeah.
careful about that. Also, if it just kind of takes you off topic and you spend more time doing the activity than actually teaching the content. So certainly, but
I,
yeah,
I like what you said about co-opting the phone. It's almost like if you can't beat it, use it,
join it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I love
And
it.
Neil, just a quick one from you on this before we move on to the last chapter.
Yeah,
When does it become too distracting?
yeah, it is, right. It's that nice kind of balance that needs to be there, and I think that that balance is kind of focusing on, like, the best inactivity creates thinking. So if the interactivity creates thinking of the topic at hand and kind of moving it forward and then making it, like I said, relevant to that person, to the audience, and not just to present there, then the interactivity is wonderful. And the best kind of analogy I could always think about, like, as interactivity is almost think of it like as seasoning, but not the meal. The meal is still the content, and interactivity is the seasoning. And if you give too much seasoning and not focusing on the meal, then you're going to kind of lose the flavor, and you're going to kind of have a little bit of overkill. So don't lose the meal, right? So just kind of use that interactivity to sprinkle in that seasoning to create that engagement, make it relevant, and also create that thought process and thinking. And what you were doing even in this presentation of the questions that we were throwing out there is to the audience is that was making you think. That was making this conversation, this content relevant because you were answering. That's really good interactivity. That's relevant, right? That's getting the brain thinking and engaged.
Yeah. Love it.
That was a really
Love the
nice analogy,
metaphor.
Neil.
Yeah, yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
thanks.
Thank you.
Like
Yeah,
the
I'm good with
analogy
analogies.
prize.
Yeah,
I love
come to
that.
me for analogies. If you ever want analogies, I'm good at those. Yeah.
And I have to say, I've had Neil's cooking. He's a very good cook.
Brilliant.
Thanks.
Thank you. That's awesome. Okay,
All
so moving
right.
on to the next chapter, chapter 3, strategies for defeating distraction, Hannah. This one's over
Yeah.
to you.
All right, thank you. So you are going to hear me repeat some of the things that we've already said, which is okay because we all need to hear things more than once. And so we're going to take a look at breaks and what that means and why they're so important, organization, and how that executive function skill can really support you as a presenter, and then also personal relevance, which is what we've been talking about quite a bit throughout the entire thing. So our brains need breaks. We really do need breaks. I mean, we are asking a lot of you today being here for a full hour, but we have built in opportunities for brain breaks, whether you realize it or not. And so, especially if you are doing something in person, you're going to want to build in physical breaks, especially for longer presentations, and bio breaks. If anybody doesn't know what a bio break is like using the restroom, going to get a drink of water. Maybe you need to stand up and stretch your legs in the back. Again, normalizing choices is key to really keeping your audience engaged. Shorter content blocks. So, like Ian, broke this presentation up today into 3 chapters. So, keeping it like that. And then vary the format and style. I already mentioned how we're doing that today and how that keeps people interested. And then, of course, interactive activities. I mean, I found AhaSlides on my own a couple of years ago, and I never looked back. I just will shout from the rooftops how wonderful it using the interactive activities on AhaSlides has been for me as a presenter and also for the webinar attendees. I mean, I use it in person as well. I mean, it's just such a game changer. But regardless of whether you use AhaSlides or not, just building in interactivity is really, really important. I mean, I feel like it's mostly the biggest thread that we're pulling through today's presentation is how important it is to get your audience engaged. And then also, we really need to protect our own stamina as presenters. And so, we talked a lot about this before and how important it is for us as presenters and trainers to feel good so that we can, last throughout the presentation, we can remain engaged. And so when we build in breaks, we get breaks as well. We get to rest our voices, maybe even rest our bodies, depending on, whether we're presenting in person or not. So it's really important to keep yourself in mind so you can continue to stay regulated and use your executive function skills. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right. So, organization. So, organization is one of our executive function skills. And I decided to focus on organization because it really helps us when we are organized, it helps us feel regulated. And so, as we talked about before, when you are feeling regulated, you can use your executive function skills better. So, you are going to feel more confident as a presenter. Your audience is going to feel more engaged. And so when you think about organizing, it's not just organizing stuff, but it's also organizing like your slides, how you organize the slides, how you organize the whole presentation itself, how you organize your own thoughts. And so, like Neil was saying in the beginning, make sure you have that story so well organized in your head so that you're not distracted by your own thoughts when you're trying to talk about it. And then when things are organized, people can feel oriented. That's I know Sherry mentioned that, right? We need to be able to orient to something in order to pay attention to it, in order to remember it. And so when people can orient, then they can relax, they can pay attention, they can feel safe, they can feel like they are ready to listen and learn. And they see you as a leader and an expert in whatever you're talking about, which is going to help them trust you. So let's see. We're going to talk about we want to make sure you have clear directions and instructions. And so, maybe that's including housekeeping in the beginning, explaining how the day is going to go. And if especially if you're in person, what are the expectations for breaks and those sorts of things? If you state them clearly in the beginning, then everybody knows, and then they can feel comfortable taking care of themselves. Signposting is super important. Signposting is where you let your audience know where you're going. Ian, you have been doing a fantastic job of signposting throughout this entire thing. We know exactly where we're going throughout the entire thing. We told you in the beginning, and we're telling you as we're going along. And that creates a lot of safety, and a lot of people can just relax. Okay, they know what's coming. And then Neil mentioned this, which is so important. Manage your time well, do it intentionally. Time yourself before you do your presentation. Add in extra time. Things generally take longer, especially if you're using interactive activities, because, like you saw Ian and Sherry responding to people's responses, you don't necessarily know how long that's going to take. And so build in that extra time. And then, of course, practice. Practice is how, if you feel anxious, then practice more. If you want to retain use of your executive function skills, you need to stay regulated. If you're going to stay regulated, you need to feel comfortable doing what you're doing. So practice. It's really, really worth it. Even if you know the content so well, at least, give it some time to refresh it so that you're not caught off guard when something unexpected happens. When it does, stuff does happen sometimes. One time I was presenting and the power went out. And so, but luckily we had a backup plan where someone else was co-host and they were able to take over until I came back on. But if I had allowed that to throw me, then when I came back on, I would just, be fumbling and not know, where I was or what I was supposed to say. So when you know your stuff, then you can manage it a little better. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. All right. And this also has been, this is like, as I said, it's just so important that personal relevance does equal buy-in. And so we want to design for our audience's perspective. And that both includes like designing for the ADHD brain, designing for the neurodivergent brain, but also think about like, what's your audience's pain points? What do they need to walk away with? What is the goal of your presentation? So design with their perspective in mind. That's an executive function skill that's super important is flexible thinking, like and being able to take someone else's perspective. And so think about your audience and what you want them to walk away with and design for that. And then also connect the content to their goals and challenges, right? So we've been doing that throughout the whole thing. The challenge is distraction. And so we've connected the content through everything. And then make it relevant with real world examples, which Ian, you did a fantastic job of that in the beginning. And then create opportunities for ownership, participating with the interactive activities and any kind of, making choices and deciding. Sometimes you can even decide what we're going to talk about. So, all right. That's
Awesome.
it.
Thanks, Hannah. And you were right on time as well. Talk about time
Yeah,
management.
I
Thank
timed
you.
myself.
I know you did. Yeah, thank you. Which leaves us with just a couple of minutes. And I really want this to be a key takeaway. If you were to sort of suggest one thing that the audience needs to take away from today's presentation, what would it be? And in as short a form as possible, because then we can get on to the live giveaway and also the Q&A. So if anyone can stick around for a few more minutes, not only can you join the live giveaway, that we've got 3 prizes for grabs, but also join the live Q&A. So key takeaways. If people remember just one thing about attention from today, what should it be? Sherry, over to you.
Attention is fleeting.
Perfect. And I said concise. That was extremely concise. Thank you. It is indeed fleeting. Hannah, over to you. One thing.
Take care of yourself as a presenter.
Really nice. Yeah. And Neil, over to you.
Oh boy, on attention. Attention doesn't fail attention doesn't fail because people don't care.
Mm,
Love it.
I like that. Yeah. It's not our fault almost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a great point to land on. Doesn't mean we don't have to do as much as we can to win it and keep it, but it's
That's
definitely
right.
not because people don't care. All right, fantastic. So I know that you've all been waiting for this part. What I'm going to ask you to do is um, enter your name. There's three prizes. The first spin is a $20 Amazon gift card and 3 months pro subscription to AhaSlides. Prize two is $50 Amazon gift card and 6 months pro subscription to AhaSlides. And prize three is $100, perfect for Christmas, and 1 year pro AhaSlides subscription. But make sure your email address is correct because we will be using that to email you your prize. Okay, so this is the part. Everyone enter who's not already entered. There's 18 in there currently, there's 20, and we're going to spin it in about 5 seconds to make sure you're included. I'm going to give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're spinning. Natalie,
Yay, Natalie.
congratulations. The first prize is all yours. And if your email isn't correct, then you can email hi@AhaSlides later on today, and we'll make sure that you get your gift card and your 3 months subscription. The next winner, $50 and 6 months subscription, is Catherine. Congratulations, Catherine. Again, if you haven't got your email in there, then do email hi@ahaslides.com. Okay, and the grand prize, $100 Amazon gift card and a whole year free subscription to AhaSlides Pro is, drum roll, oh, I missed it. Mariana, congratulations. There we go.
The spinning wheel is
Fantastic.
so pretty.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a classic as well, especially in a room, in person. It
Oh,
creates so
yeah.
much anticipation, and you can
Yep,
let it
yep.
spin for like a minute or something. I chose the 5 seconds. So, congratulations to all winners, and thank you all for joining us. If you do have a few more minutes and would like to ask some questions to our panelists, then this is your chance. Thank you very much. So, you can enter it here. Feel free to ask away. And in the meantime, I haven't thought about what we could do in the meantime.
We're prepared. Oh.
Yeah,
We all make mistakes.
yeah.
Ian's been doing a lot.
You
Um,
did you
I'm
did
gonna scan the chat and
That's a
see if
good
I
that's a
idea.
great shout. That's a great shout, Sherry.
Mhm.
Thank you. Um,
there's an AHA slide. Okay, are instructors who use AHA slides in their classes on a regular basis? It seems like a gigantic task to plan each and every class session. Does it get monotonous for students? Is there any data?
I can answer that. I don't I'm not a teacher, but I do use AHA Slides daily for so Beyond Booksmart offers a program called Motivation and Productivity Program, and it's this where we have these daily planning sessions, so people can join in to these daily planning sessions to to plan their day. And every day we have different AHA slide activities. And it at first, when you first start using AHA slides, it is like it feels a lot to plan it just because you're getting used to the software. I have to say it's very easy once you get going to just switch up the activity a little bit. And we make it easy by mainly keeping the same template every day and then just switching a couple things here and there. But I think just with anything, the learning curve is, just slightly like a little hill in the beginning, but it's really pretty easy to use. And I think the ROI is really worth it.
and Christina asked if you had used PowerPoint, you can upload an existing presentation and just add some Oh, she was
Yeah.
saying you can use the PowerPoint plugin. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, I love that you're asking questions about AHA Slides, by the way. But actually, it was more about attention training, any insight or value you want to get from our awesome panelists while they're still on the line. There is one cool question here um, from Catherine, one of our winners. I present all the time in a one-on-one setting. What are the most important things to consider when I move to large audiences? I think that's a good one. Neil, are you up for taking that one?
Sure, sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think the challenge sometimes is I think there's two there's something to kind of like talk about when you're talking presenting to large audiences. I think for a large audience that is there because they want to be there, like for today, you all showed up because there's a topic that was relevant to you, grabbed your attention, so you kind of showed up. And then there's presenting to like when I do like corporate training per se, I'm presenting to an audience that I don't know if they really want to be there or not, and that could be a bit of a challenge, right? Um, and so the important part of really kind of both of them, but what you kind of really have to focus on that latter one is you have to have that relevance. You have to make the content. So whether it be starting off with a really good question to ask them, kind of like the way that you Ian, even today, like you engage with, hey, let me do a poll. Let me do like a check of something that's relevant to everyone in the audience, have them answer it, and then that kind of answer correlates to the training you're about to give. So I think when you're doing it to a large audience, you really want to get everyone on that same page. You really want to make the topic to be something that's going to be impactful for everyone. So know that they may not show up engaged, but how do you get them engaged? You want to have a conversation with them. You want to ask them really compelling questions in the beginning so that they have to think and then be like, oh, okay, let me think about that. Like, what are some of my distractions? These are them. Now, you know what? You gave us an answer. Now I'm going to address it. So I think that whenever you're working with a group, is this the first thing you have to focus is on is getting everyone on the same page and making that presentation you're about to give to be impactful by asking a question and get that engagement. And then you got them locked in. And then it's just a matter of you keeping them there.
There's something about when I present, I like to hear people's voices like quickly. I like to even just to be able to hear the voices, and gauge where I am in relation to them, and everything. It just situates us all in the same room at the same time. So I think getting that hook in really early, I think is really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Neil. Okay, for online sessions, what time would you recommend as an average productive one? Ooh, it's a good one.
47 seconds.
I think it means time in the day. What?
Time in the day. I was
Ah,
with you, Sherry. That's how I interpreted it as well. I think it depends on your audience. So, for example, I often present to parents, and so for parents, we present in the evenings. But for working professionals, then maybe like we've done at the end of the day. It really
Mm,
depends on your audience.
yeah,
It's hard
there's
to
probably
you
know.
some
seem
days.
to have some waves of attentiveness that, the crack of dawn doesn't seem to be the best time, but maybe mid-morning, and then it seems like maybe mid-afternoon if it's in a work setting, that you're kind of coming off of that lunch lull, and um, those would be my recommendations.
The reason
Yeah.
why we chose to do like a working professionals one at the end of the day is because, it's also uncomfortable. Like, hey, I want to attend this webinar during my work
Yeah.
day. It feels a little bit like easier to say, oh, I'll do this at the end of the day. If you are a parent and your kids are coming home in the afternoon, you're not gonna be able to pay attention. So maybe we can do it later on in the evening when they're going to be getting settled for bed or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
important to know your audience for sure.
Mhm, mhm.
Thank you. Here's a good one. What was the most groundbreaking measure or element that you incorporated to your presentations? Which one made, which one thing made everyone engaged? Neil, I'm going to
Can I?
fire that over
Oh,
to. Oh,
Oh, oh,
yeah, no,
Hannah.
yeah,
Hannah.
no, go for it, Neil.
Oh,
No,
Hannah,
no,
I'll
Hannah, go
remember.
ahead.
go.
You can
Okay.
go ahead, Hannah.
So the most groundbreaking thing that I have learned and started incorporating is being vulnerable and authentic as a presenter. And being sharing my actual story. I'm very open that I have ADHD. I'm very happy to share that. But what it does is when you are authentic and open about your own story and how it's relevant to you, you can help put your audience at ease. You can also help them think like, oh, I'm not the only one, or something that shows them that you're not just this expert up on the stage telling them, you should do this. You're saying I'm one of you, and I'm also wanting to share with you what I've learned so that you can benefit too.
Yeah,
Uh,
love that.
are we going round robin on this? Like, can I jump in?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
jump
yeah.
in.
I think my two I have two, not just one, but one, but they're kind of related, but it's jokes and excitement. And so uh kind of going back to that attention economy, I think it's really like a dopamine economy. And dopamine is the neurotransmitter that your prefrontal cortex uses to help you focus. And so if I can kind of deliver doses of dopamine kind of throughout the day, that I'm a better competitor with like social media and video games and things like that, similar to what Neil was talking about earlier. So now I'm ready to hear from the expert. Uh,
Yeah, no, I think what you both said is exactly spot on. I think making it a story, making it personal. I think telling personal stories is good, right? It makes you human. Everyone wants a human connection. I think to kind of add one to it, I would say is having that ability of being able to, again, that kind of engagement, not only making yourself vulnerable, making it personable, but when you look at all the different personality traits, and Hannah was kind of talking about this, is like the way I look at starting off any presentation I'm going to give is I want to look at this bucket of the types of people that I may have. You may have ADHD, you may have high C's, you may have high D's, or whatever. It's like, okay, how can I create something that's going to engage all of them? And one of the things that speaks to all kind of like personality traits is the ability that they know that they're being heard or that they're being listened to. Everyone wants to at least be listened to or heard, right? That covers all personality traits. So if I can add that element into my presenting, then I know I'm going to be speaking to the entire audience. Like, so how can I integrate those sections in there where the audience is being heard and they're now a part of that story? And statistically, when you're able to do that, is I once read an article and it always stuck with me. It was an article that said um, there's in like a 45 minute to an hour presentation, there's only 5 minutes that people actually remember.
yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, how do you change that statistic? How do you make that 5 minutes 15 minutes or 20 minutes? And it's get the audience to be a part of the presentation, get them to be a part of the story. So I think that that's really the most kind of groundbreaking thing that I implemented is how can I get them to be a part of that story?
Mm,
Love it.
awesome. It's almost turning it into an experience, like you said earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. Make an
Yeah,
experience.
yeah.
I kind of want to
Thank you
work for
so much.
Metagenics now and go to your
Yeah,
trainings.
There
me
you go.
too.
There
Me
you
too.
go.
Okay.
Nice.
Thanks so
Nice
much.
little plug.
Hey, panelists, thank you very much. Sherry, Hannah, Neil, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Ian.
Audiences from all over the world, thank you so, so much for your time, for your amazing questions, for participating in the engagement features of the presentation. It was a real pleasure to host this first AhaSlides webinar of this kind, and I hope that we can have you all back for more in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thanks so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. See you all soon. Thank you. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Bottom right.